If you're a business owner in 2026, then you've probably seen the trends in marketing change over the past couple of years. Ever since COVID, the marketing game has changed significantly. With the development of AI, business owners are completely changing the way that they go about their marketing process, and it's affecting their reach and their consumers. Well, today I had an awesome opportunity to deep dive this with a true expert, the founder and CEO of Making It Marketing, a company based out of Worcester that helps business owners, entrepreneurs, and service-based companies grow their marketing reach and capitalize on leads. Tara has taken her company from a solopreneur just a few years ago into a nationally recognized organization helping entrepreneurs all across the country. We deep dive into the trends we're seeing in marketing today, some of the thought processes that Tara has as a business owner, and how she's thinking about growing her company to be able to scale and still service her clients with the same level of touch as when it was just her. So, if you're interested in learning more about marketing and entrepreneurship, then enjoy the show. Tara, thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited for our conversation. I see all the amazing things you're doing on social media and with your company. And I think nowadays more than ever, especially as an entrepreneur myself, I notice the competition online.
Yes.
Marketing's gotten a lot more competitive as new tools have come out. But I think as that happens, it kind of forces people to get better. And I've noticed a lot of trends that I'm excited to kind of talk to you about today.
Yeah.
But for those who are listening and are wondering, what is Tara Ostromecky all about? Could you share a little bit about your background, what you have going on in your company right now?
Yeah, definitely. So where do I start? It's been a journey, that's for sure. It's funny because we were just chatting before the show started and you're like, oh yeah, I'll ask you about marketing. And marketing has been a part of my life for over 10 years now. And I'm only 25. So that's pretty crazy to say. Like ever since I was a kid, I always was really creative and artistic, and I wanted to find a way to blend my love of art with business because obviously I wanted to grow up and be successful and make money and whatever. But really early on, I was always kind of reverse engineering any sales or things that I would see in the store, and I would be like, oh, it's buy one, get one free. Not really. You're really just paying half the price for both. Like this is my 10, 12-year-old brain. So as I grew up, I just kind of followed that path. I took some marketing related classes in high school, graphic design, marketing. I did a personal finance class that was really business oriented. And that kind of helped me set me on the path that I got on. I went to Nichols College, so I studied marketing and entrepreneurship there. I'm like, okay. So I created an Instagram account. It was a different name back then. I called it Magnetic Marketing. Kind of same theme. Love the alliteration. So Magnetic Marketing just started out as an Instagram page. I was creating marketing materials for people that I knew. My brother's photography business. When COVID happened, it was for the dance studio that I was working for to shift everyone over to online classes. So it really started out of love and passion, but also just the desire to learn marketing, because I was taking classes, of course, but college classes are so different than the actual skill set you need in the workplace. What we do, we are a creative and adaptable marketing company. We're based in Worcester, but we serve clients all across the United States. So we have a client in Texas. We've worked with a client in California. So it's great because we are local, but we can be national, which is a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you get to touch many different industries too.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I want to talk more about that too as we continue.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's funny you mentioned babysitter. My immediate thought was, well, being a CEO kind of has some of those characteristics.
True.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Just in a different context.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about scaling today too. So you learn a lot babysitting. And
absolutely.
I think the funniest part of it was if you search my name in some of these town groups, you can still see the flyers I had created. That's Tara, and I'm has my own transportation, reliable, babysitting certified. It's just crazy that that's where I came from versus what I'm doing today. So
which is awesome. And I think it's really, really cool to hear you found your passion early.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the entrepreneurs who are, younger, who create successful businesses, they find their calling and they know that it's not just that they start a business, but they have a passion behind it. I
Yeah,
think that makes a
absolutely.
really big difference.
Yeah, and I think having a passion for what you do is really what makes it part of your life and not just like, oh, I have to wake up and go to work today.
Well, it makes it easier to
Yeah.
put in the extra hours,
Yeah.
because that's
Oh yeah. You and I
inevitably.
both do that, right?
Absolutely. Well, I know,
Yeah.
and like in the beginning too,
Yeah.
and we were talking a little bit before, but it's on this show, we talk a lot about the idea of entrepreneurs going through different seasons of their
Yes.
business. I
Yeah.
believe there's, seasons in life, and I think there's
Hmm.
seasons in business. And in that beginning phase, that's passion is what kind of drives you through those tough days.
Yeah.
But as you start to transition into the next element or next, phase of your business, the passion has to almost reignite in a different direction. I know for
Yes.
you, as
Yeah.
we were talking before, that's, a focus point of yours is navigating the growth and scale. So talk to me from that perspective, if you will, as
Hmm.
a CEO now, and how many employees do you have currently?
I have two.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you're going through the hiring process. Now you said you have one
Yes.
of them's on their second year, going on the third
Yeah,
year.
yeah, she just completed her second year, and then the other one's in his second year now, and, like, he is, like, this close to full-time. My other girl's been full-time with me pretty much since the beginning. She was my first ever full-time hire, and she's
Wow.
still with us.
That's
So when
awesome.
people are like, "Oh, what are you really proud of?" I'm like, "That," because we were just
Yeah.
talking about, like, our generation is made of a lot of people that like to hop jobs, and, like, that's totally great and valid for a lot of different reasons, but as a business owner, you wanna have retention and you wanna hire people that are going to grow with you and not have to retrain people every couple of months. So,
And having
yeah.
being in that position now where
Mhm.
you've had this employee for 2 years,
Yeah.
have there been any revelations you've had that you wish you could go back and tell your younger self as you're going through that?
Well, with, like, this specific case, not really, but in terms of how I started the business, yes. I had originally kinda thought, like, the bigger my team, the better,
Mm,
and the more legit this business feels and looks if we have more people.
sure.
So, within my first week of taking the business full time, not only did I make the crazy personal decision of, like, adopting a cat, super random, like, he came into my life. It was just, like, a weird timing because it was, like, in the matter of a month. So this is like end of like October 2022. Left my corporate job, was trying to apply to like different jobs, was only hearing back from companies in a similar industry as what I was working in before, which was like medical devices. 21 years old. I was like, I do not want to sell
No,
medical
thank you.
devices. I was
Sure.
like, no thanks. I did not do great in science, like growing up. No thanks. So yeah, within that month, I had met with someone who was like a mentor to me. He actually owns a nonprofit, Our Bright Future. And I met him because he was my brother's soccer coach,
No
like
kidding.
way back when. My brother's 5 years older than me. So I've known this guy since I was maybe like 11 or 12. And my initial question to him was, hey, I've seen him hire a lot of interns from Nichols College where I went. So it's like, how do I hire unpaid interns legally? That was my
Yeah,
question.
it's a good question.
And he was like, okay, like he took me through the process. And then through that conversation, I had mentioned, like, oh, I think I need to create a bank account for my business. He goes, you know what? I have a great person. He goes, let's meet up for coffee. I'll introduce you to her and then she'll help you get set up. Great. So I go to Sawdust Coffee House sometime in like October, and I'm telling them like, oh, I'm applying to these jobs, not really feeling it. I have this side company. And they're like, Tara, there is no better time than now to take your business full time. And I remember Quasi said to me, he was like, you need to just work on it for a few months and not worry about the money. And he's like, worst case scenario, you have a degree. Like you
Right.
can fall back on that. You can
Love
go
that.
get a job somewhere else. So I drove home from that meeting and I'm calling everyone in my family, calling my mom, calling my dad. I'm like, how are we gonna do this? I'm gonna take this company full time. And I didn't really like believe it as I was saying it, because also when I was graduating, I was in between jobs. So I remember a lot of our capstone classes, we would have guest speakers and we would have to go around and say our name and our major and like where we were going in
Sure.
life, what we were doing in a month's time. And one of my friends was like, just say you're working on your business. Like
Yeah.
they're not gonna know. They don't care if
Yeah.
that's not really what happened. So I would say that, but I didn't really believe it. And this day where I had this motivation and this advice was really where I started to believe it and see it as a possibility. Because you have all these other people that say you need to work 10 plus years in corporate, you need
Right.
all these different types of
Well,
experience.
it's
So
funny when I was
yeah,
I was talking to someone this morning. It might have been
yeah,
Russ, but I was having a conversation similar to this, and it was like
yeah,
when someone's telling you not to do something, it depending on obviously who it is and their experience, but
yeah,
usually it means you're onto something good.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I tend to carry that belief like in a lot of things that I do.
Yeah.
Where it's like if enough people are telling you don't do it, there might be some merit to
To
considering
doing
doing it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
It-
it's like projecting too. Like a lot of
correct.
people will say like, don't do it. But then in the back of their mind, they're like, well, what if I did that? Where would have I been
Right.
if I
Well, I
had
think
done
it's
that?
also really important, especially early on, and really at any stage, but to qualify the person you're
Mhm.
getting advice from.
Yes.
And I,
100%.
one of the beliefs that I have when I think about that is like when I ask questions about my business specifically, I might get feedback from people who I might not take business advice from just to hear
Mhm.
outside opinions.
Yeah.
But when I'm going to make a decision that's pivotal, I
Mhm.
want to ask someone who's done the thing that I'm looking to do. So
Yeah.
kind of from that higher perspective, because
Yeah.
otherwise, if you ask someone who's doesn't have the same vision or
Mhm.
hasn't gone through the same experiences, that's
Mhm.
where like they're them telling you now, that might be a good thing. But
Yeah.
depending on who it's coming from, obviously
Mhm.
that, can change.
Yeah,
I,
definitely.
I know for you at that point, so going back to when we were talking about that first hire, you
Mhm.
mentioned, I know earlier you were saying you brought on
Mhm.
like 5 interns at once.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that because I know
Yep.
for a lot of people, I don't think that they manage the intern process correctly because I think for
Yep.
a young entrepreneur, it can be
Mhm.
good. Maybe not 5 at once, but talk me through
Yeah.
that and see how your
Yeah.
experience was.
So I think there's a lot of connotations that come along with the word intern, right?
Sure.
Like as an entrepreneur, if you have a good heart, you're probably like, well, I don't want to hire just someone to go get me coffee,
Right.
right? Like that's kind of how an intern is portrayed in a movie or, whatever. So my goal was like, okay, I'm going to hire these interns and like, have them really learn marketing.
Yeah.
But my internship program in 2022 was completely different than what it is now because back then it was like that was me learning how to manage a team,
Mhm.
also being 21 and only having been on a couple different types of teams because I worked at a small business. So I had kind of been in a situation where it was only like my marketing, like the boss, like the chief
So you had
marketing
to learn
officer,
the
and then
skill set too.
myself. And then like in corporate, all of a sudden you're like an underdog and you're a tiny, tiny piece of the puzzle. So I had to figure out some management style between those two extremes.
Sure.
Especially being a small company, even if you're not an intern, if you are hired as like a social media manager, my social media manager does email marketing. She does website stuff. Like they kind of wear a lot of hats.
Mhm.
And what I learned in the process of just hiring people to have people on my team was that you don't have to, like, numbers don't really matter on the outside. I do think it helped my business have credibility early on, but I look back at like the initial, version of my website and the photos. I'm like, we look like babies, like because we were all like literally 18 to 22 years old. So it was just funny, and it was definitely a learning experience. And I had some really, really wonderful interns. Like I had a guy named Dylan who worked for me. I met him at a career fair at Nichols, and he had worked for me for like maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
And now he's going on to like take over his family business. So that was like a really great experience. But what I've noticed in just the past few years, like post COVID, I hate to keep bringing it up, but it's just like how it affected
Sure.
people. The generations that were in middle school or high school, which is what I'm kind of dubbing as like younger Gen Z. I feel like I'm like older Gen Z, like the first half of Gen Z, and then there's like the younger Gen Z.
Yes, yes.
So they, it's hard because they didn't have as many opportunities to learn communication skills at really important developmental ages. So there are some really awesome people in the bunch, but even in the past like 2 years, I have struggled to have an intern that does what they say they're going to do. Like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, I need an unpaid internship for class credit," and then
They
they'll
just
be
want the
like,
credit though.
"Yeah," and then they'll just be like, "Actually, I'm gonna count something else I already did as it," or they're like, "Oh, actually, I got a paid job," so like they just kind of quit. And I think some of the growing pains in my business is learning. You can't just hire based on personality.
Yeah.
And that's 100% what I
Yeah.
did at the beginning. I'm like, I like you, I vibe with you, you're hired. And now it's like, all right, how do I know you're not going to quit in 2 weeks?
Right.
Like I got really, really lucky with my first full-time hire. Like I said, Ivy, she's still with us today. Someone that has a really, really good work ethic.
Mm.
And I've also learned like this isn't true in all cases, but I've learned if you hire someone that you're kind of already like a friend with, it will be harder to work with them because when they're underperforming, they're
Yeah.
giving you all the excuses and you're like, oh no, it's okay. I understand. Like, oh yeah, it stinks that you're going through that. So
That's a hard one.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I work with my father, and thankfully he's
Yep.
not, my boss. We work
Yeah.
together
Yep.
because it is hard because you bring those family um, relationship and family emotions into business, and that's a
Hmm.
hard line, to
Yeah.
draw. I know for me, I had
Exactly.
an intern for about 5 months last
Yeah.
summer, and I got really lucky.
Yeah.
He was someone who actually wanted to just learn.
Yeah.
And so the tasks
Absolutely.
that I gave him, there was a follow through, or at least an expectation of he's going to complete the things that I'm asking him to do.
Hmm.
But what I
Yeah.
find challenging with, at least so far in my experience with interns, is especially for a smaller company, like if you
Hmm.
go and intern at Google,
Yeah.
they already know everything you have to do to a T. Like they'll give you
Hmm.
an SOP and you
Yep.
can pretty much not talk to anyone and operate the job. But as a small company, you don't have those things early on. And
Yeah.
what I found is I think that where people sometimes struggle with today, especially newer employees,
Mhm.
especially interns, is the expectation of how far to take a task before they need to get you involved. Because
Yeah.
that's a
That's
fine
a good
line.
point. Yeah.
If they start something and they ask you really early, well then I kind of question, their ability to problem solve. If
Yeah.
I ask them to, research something and they ask
Mm.
me 2 days in a question that they could probably figure out on their own.
Yeah.
So I think that was one thing that I learned with my intern early was giving him an expectation of I'd rather you figure out if this was your business
Mhm.
and you started a company today, just like I did,
Yep.
you don't have the answers. So I want you to complete this as if it was your own task and it was your own company and come to
Yeah.
me with 90% of the answers. And I actually challenged him to say, give me your feedback or opinion on the
Mhm.
problem. So I
Okay.
don't want
Yeah.
someone to come to me and say, here's all the research I did in research dump. I
Mhm.
mean, it's 2026. I can go research dump
Yep.
if I need to.
Yeah.
I want you to come to me and give me a 1 to 2 minute concise update of the information you found,
Yep.
the solution to the problem, and what action items or questions are outstanding.
Yeah.
Because that was another one where I struggled with that initially, where he would come to me with, here's all of the information I completed in a task
Mhm.
in a Google Doc.
Yeah. And then it's like, what do you do
Great,
with
it's
that
in
Google
there, but
Doc?
right.
Yeah.
I don't want to read and interpret your work. I want you to
Yeah.
give me an answer.
Yeah.
I don't have
100%.
30 minutes to review this with you and ask questions.
Mhm.
I want the skinny, give me
Yeah.
the quick 1 to 2 minute feedback. So I learned that was something I never would have thought early on because you almost innately, it's a downside trait for me
Mhm.
sometimes where I innately just believe people will figure it out
Yeah. But not
because that's what
everyone's
I would
like
do.
that. Yeah.
But
Yep.
you kind of have to train them and mold them. So
Yeah.
did you struggle with any of that from your internship experience with
I
hiring?
yeah, I think so. Like in the beginning stages, it was like I'm just giving them tasks that like I need done,
Mm.
like for my business. And now, like I've really narrowed down my internship program to only happen in the summer because I know the
Mm.
way now I've learned like 4 years into this full time, I've learned the ebbs and flows of busy seasons when we're really busy getting new clients versus when things are a little bit quieter. So for me, summer tends to be quieter. So I have the time to actually mentor them and help them and teach them and build the structure out. Like I've built out full blown internship structure in Notion. That's where we do all of our project management. And that's been really helpful because it's like, okay, here's, 5 tasks to focus on this week.
Mm.
And then I normally will set up like a weekly one on one with them. But as a business owner, like you don't really have the time to
No.
do that. So that's why like I've really only said, okay, like 8 weeks out of the year, I will have interns. But what I learned is I'm not hiring the interns really to progress the business. I'm hiring them because I enjoy teaching people and I enjoy mentoring people and also giving them the opportunities that I felt like I did not have in my internships. Cause I had one internship where it was very analytical and I worked at an agency, but once again, like the reference of being a tiny, tiny piece in the puzzle, I was never taught like what the company mission was, like really didn't learn much about the clients. I was really on the back end, just like pulling a bunch of keywords for Google Ads. Like
Yeah,
it was
sure.
like such a niche internship. So my goal when I hire interns is like, okay, I'm gonna kind of give you my crash course in real world marketing in like 8 weeks. And I've had success in doing that. And especially like I had a girl that I ran into at Nichols like last year who interned for me the summer before. And she's like, thank you, Tara. You taught me how to write, because she was interning right when AI was fully becoming accessible and available. And a lot of college students, and I've been bringing this up a lot recently, like just in different conversations. Like I graduated in 2022 in May, and then in November 2022, ChatGPT became completely publicly available to
Yeah.
everybody. So I'm like, wow, I learned how to write, like,
That
and
that
use my brain to think, like
right.
right in time.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a thing I noticed too, is that like the ability to problem solve
Hmm.
because of the technology that's out there with AI
Yeah.
is very different than when I, was getting started in
Yeah.
just business in general.
Yep.
Because I find today that, like, on that same note, that because the technology's out there, they re- younger interns rely too heavily on the software
Hmm.
to solve the problem. Like, I
Yeah.
think there's definitely value, of course, in AI in business,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it's
100%.
all about
Yeah.
how you use it, almost in a way to protect your skills, especially if you're a
Yep.
visionary.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure people too, but they rely their entire lives on AI. Like, how do I
Hmm.
answer this text message, or what do I
Yeah. It's
eat
getting
this
bad.
week? Like, it's
Yep.
true. It's very true.
Yeah.
But I think the use case where I find it valuable is a couple things. Like, one, analyzing information.
Hmm.
Like, if there's a
Yeah.
100-page document that's not, a legal contract,
Yep.
but even that, pull out the big
Yeah.
items so I don't have to read through the, legalese.
Yep.
Or if I wanted to upload, you know, create images, like for me, that's a big
Yep.
one. I'm
Yeah.
not really graphically talented.
Yeah.
So
Be careful with the image generation. It's still a little wonky,
it definitely
but
is.
yeah.
But I had to
Yeah.
mock up. So I'm building out a new podcast stream,
Okay.
and I had
Yep.
to mock up the room.
Oh
So I
yeah.
took a picture and I
Yep.
said, here's all the dimensions.
Yep.
Here's the dimensions of the, height
Hmm.
to the ceiling, where the lights are. And
Yeah.
I said, I have these size chairs. I need to
Hmm.
fill in X, Y, and Z.
Okay. I
So
love that
because I
use
gave
for
it the
it.
framework, it came up to it. And then I said, okay, now take this discussion that we had, I guess it was a
Yeah.
discussion, and give me the material list.
Okay.
And it actually gave me the material list so I could say, here, to my assistant, can you order these, on
Yeah.
Amazon?
That's perfect.
So there are good use cases, but
Yeah.
talk to me about the marketing side, because
Oh.
there's a huge impact.
It is. Yeah. So AI in marketing right now is crazy. I have recently been experimenting with custom GPTs. So basically, instead of just relying on general chat to do your work, a big part of my job, actually, as the CEO of a small company, is doing a lot of reviews. So we produce at least over 100 captions per month across our clients. And I'm the one who gets to review them. So that process used to be very long and tedious, and it still can be, because I'm still really particular with, like, if the PM after a time is capital or lowercase. Like, it's
Yeah.
these little things as a marketer you kind of just pick up naturally, but it changes per client. So what I've recently been experimenting with is like, okay, can I train these custom GPTs like with a do's and don'ts list per client to save me so much time on these initial reviews, and then I just do a more quick like look through of it. And now I'm having my employees implement that in their systems too, saying, I don't want to look at it until you've run it through this, because I built it. So I know it knows how I review things. And I've like uploaded a bunch of documents of like examples of how I've reviewed. So that's been really helpful. With AI, I was just saying like, oh, be careful. Graphics are a
Yeah.
little wonky, but I've also created some really cool stuff with it. Like I had a picture of myself. I just went to Australia in January. So I did a little photo shoot on the beach with like my laptop, and I was wearing all my making and marketing gear. Then we had a big snowstorm like 2 days after I came back. So I was like, I don't want to post this beach picture because it looks like, I'm not local if I'm
Right.
posting this beach picture. So I actually put it into ChatGPT and said, like, make it look like I'm sitting in a pile of snow. And my mom messaged me. She's like, why did you go outside and with your laptop and do a
No
photo
way.
shoot before she read the caption? And I'm like, see, because sometimes you put it through and it'll completely change your face and your characteristics. But this time it didn't. Like sometimes you just say like change the background, it'll kind of keep the initial picture. So you can do a lot of cool stuff with it and almost make fun of it too. But my other point on AI is everybody is really starting to sound the same.
Yes.
Like,
You can start to
let's
pick
talk
up
about
on it.
that for a second.
It's not about this, it's about that. That's
Yep.
like,
And it's not just this. it's this.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, and then there's the comma list of 3 words in a row and
Right.
the M dashes. Oh my
The
God.
M
No matter
dashes.
how many times I ban the M dashes, they still come back.
Right.
Like,
In the script. Right. Right.
yeah,
Right.
they're always there. So one thing that we're really doing is as a marketing company this year is I'm positioning us as like, we're not, you know, we're not hiding the fact that we're using AI. We're using it to help like with the creation and the
Sure.
revisions, not even like the strategy, but just like, oh, okay, we have all this information. How can we like kind of get it into one place?
Right.
But what I am talking to my clients and potential clients about is we still need strategy and we still need to, once again, use our brains to think.
Right.
And if you're a business owner, let's just pretend you're an electrician and you're asking AI, hey, what should this caption be about, you know, maybe like a new light installation I did for new construction. It's probably going to give you a very similar response that it's going to give your competitor, right? So what
Right.
I'm trying to do is work with business owners and companies to say, hey, why don't we like create your tone, figure out your
Right.
strategy, look at your analytics. When we're starting with a new client, we always look at other companies that they like, maybe they don't like, especially when building like a website or a logo. And really just crafting it in a way that's still human. I was joking the other day because I do a lot of posts on LinkedIn for my personal brand. That's actually how I've gotten some of my bigger clients
Yeah.
is through that. But I've been posting a lot of stuff that I'm either talking on a video, so you know it's me. I'm not deep faking myself
Right.
yet. Like we're
Right.
not there
It's
yet.
coming.
Yeah. And then like sometimes I'll just kind of go on a rant about something that happened and the lesson learned from it. And I didn't even like reread it, which is very unlike me because literally I'm reviewing all day. So with my own stuff, I'm like, that's fine. And then I looked at it a day later and I caught like 3 typos. And now I'm actually seeing a lot of marketing companies say, you know what, typos aren't bad anymore
No,
because it
they show
shows that
you
it's
real.
human.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so
It
funny
shows
you
that
say
it's
that
real.
because
Yeah.
the other day, it was actually this morning, I think I was reading a post from this real estate investor that I follow. And
Yeah.
the first, like, one of the first few words he mistyped, and I'm like,
Hmm.
well, it must be him, you know?
Yeah. Right.
Right? I mean, because AI would
Yep.
never.
I know.
But it's funny
Yeah.
how we're going back to that.
Yeah, and there is going to be a push, like I said, because everybody's getting really sick of these phrases.
Mm,
And I look at it almost like it's like a second language. Like
it is.
when AI first came out and had all those interns, I was running all of their stuff through AI detection. Like Copy Lakes AI was one of the ones I was using. And I didn't, I got to a point I didn't have to do that. I would just be like, this is AI, please change it. Like, please rewrite this.
Right.
So,
Well, and that's, I think, as you mentioned earlier, like there is a good use case for it if you know
yeah,
how to use it. But
exactly.
it's like the
Yeah.
whole theory of, and I know Russ says this all the time, it's like
Hmm.
garbage in, garbage out. And
Yep.
it's so true. Like if you don't train the software to
Hmm.
think like
Yeah.
you'll get the same generic, same generic responses and
Exactly.
the same,
Yep.
captions. But
Yeah.
if you give it that background context, it can be really useful.
Yeah. And it can do a lot of great things. It can really help you in a lot of different ways and help businesses in a lot of different ways. But it's important to still work with real people. And,
Mm,
like it's so easy for people. Like, I think there's a couple threats we face, like as a marketing company. Number one is, oh, we already have an internal employee. Great. I love that. I want to work with your internal team.
right.
I want you to have an internal team. It's actually a lot harder for us to do our job if there's not someone that's there day to day. But that person shouldn't be the one scheduling posts and writing all the captions if
Right.
they're out like helping you with your content or like with the casinos we work with, they're on the floor like doing promotions, doing the giveaways, whatever. It's just important to realize like AI is a tool and it's not a replacement yet.
Right.
I say that with caution because like if someone's listening in a year or 2 years, who knows? Like it's
Right.
changing so rapidly, it's almost scary because we're as marketers, we're doing our best to keep up with it. But like something that comes out tomorrow, we, wouldn't have even dreamt of before.
Right. And that's
So
where I was talking. I had Bryce Meisen on the show, and
yeah.
obviously his business is all centered around AI integration and software
Yeah.
development. And he said something that was super interesting. He was like, if you kind of reframe the perspective of where we are, you know, on a development basis with AI,
Yep.
it's like the internet was in 2000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was a complete reframe for me where I'm like, wow, we're
Hmm.
so early on
Yeah.
that it is going to change. But I think all the more reason why,
Mhm.
like a company like yourself can make such a difference. I notice it in my day to day.
Yeah.
The information that I look to online, the people that I look to follow, it's back to authenticity.
Hmm.
Like even the videos that I, have professionally edited and like
Hmm.
the ones I put a lot of time and effort into,
Yeah.
those get significantly less traction than just a
Yep.
picture of me standing in this. I posted a picture a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
We got 30 inches of snow in
Of
Rhode
you guys
Island
shoveling,
of me
right? Yeah.
shoveling.
And I remember that probably more than another post you could reference.
I do too.
Yeah.
I remember that post
Yeah.
over some of the videos.
Yep. Yeah.
But that's because they're missing that in the world where so many
They are.
companies aren't able to connect with, their
Yeah.
consumer base or
Mhm.
the people who follow them on social media.
Yeah, and I think a challenge I run into with a lot of the small business owners is they say, "Well, I don't want to be behind the camera. I don't want to be the star of the show. Like, can my employee do it or whatever?" And it really depends on the type of business.
Yeah.
But if you are a small company and you can really put the face to who you are and what your mission is and what you do, I mean, that's how I grew my business,
Yeah.
by putting myself out there, by sharing things that, not everyone would share. The casino client I have today found me because I made a post about turning 22. And I was just
Yeah.
like, I'm 22 and I'm so happy I get to travel the world because I created my business. Like I love to like pull that up. We'll link it in the
Yeah.
comments or whatever. And this person had found me and just sent it. He was new in his role and there was a new marketing director and he was like, "Wow, I really loved her story." And he sent it to the marketing director. He's like, "Yeah, she seems cool." And he filled out the contact us for my website. His name was the same as like a movie title. So
Yeah.
like literally first name, last name, same as a movie title. And anyone that has a website knows that your contact form will be so full of spam.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Real.
this seems so fake. And it just felt so random because at that point, this was like early 2023. So I'm not even like a full 6 months into my business full time. At this point, I'm like, why would a casino want to work with me? Like little old me from Worcester,
Yeah.
Massachusetts. And sure enough, like I actually called him, very un-Gen Z of me, but he left his phone number. So I called the guy and we talked and we had a great conversation. He told me exactly what he was looking for. And it took 8 months to get this client to sign because when you're working with certain types of casinos, they're tribal owned. So it just takes longer because it's not only the marketing director's decision, it's basically the tribe who owns the casino, who owns the
So
native
interesting.
reservation. And yeah, I learned a lot because I had to like pay a lawyer to create my contract. And then their tribal lawyers, like, and I could be completely like phrasing things wrong, but like the lawyers that they have that are part of the tribe also had to like read through it and make sure it was good. So it was a really cool learning process. That was also my first client. I had to get like vendor approval. Like they did background checks and I paid like, a $500 fee to apply to be a vendor.
Wow.
Like it's cool because you learn so much. Like I didn't know when I started my company when RFP is a request for proposal. Like that's something that isn't taught in school. Why? I don't know. But
Sure.
there's a lot of things that you kind of pick up over the years of growing a business.
But what's different about the casino industry? Because I know that's a lot
Yeah.
of your clientele now.
Yeah, so it's definitely a focus of ours. Like I kind of put our niche in a couple different buckets. So like hospitality is where like casinos, restaurants, hotels, country clubs fall under. So there's that. And then there's like, business services. So like your consultants, we have a larger contract with a staffing company. We do a lot of like email newsletters for them, their social media. And then the third bucket is skilled trades. And that one's been really interesting just because that really ebbs and flows with the economy.
Mm.
Luckily, with the hospitality bucket, I started that at a good time. But it's so different because, like I mentioned earlier, they do have that internal team. So that's really great for us to work with because they'll be like, hey, here's a list of all the promotions. Here's a list, or here's, the pictures of the car we're giving away this weekend. So it's crazy to say this, but we've been with them going on 3 years now. Never once stepped foot in this casino. I've never been
Wow.
there. Yeah, which is crazy because I love their team. I love the people there, and I've met some of them at other conferences because like I go to these gaming focused conferences when I can. Great for networking. It's a really fast paced, moving industry, and what myself and my employees really love about it is we are never ever bored. Like there is always something new going on, and what I really love is sharing the wins. Like when people are winning. They had someone hit like $1 million jackpot last
Wow.
year or 500,000. And it's like these life-changing moments. And I remember the guy who hired me, he's no longer there. He was like the marketing director. He always kind of took the approach of like, I want to create like unforgettable lifetime memories for
Love
these
that.
people. And like that's how I want the marketing to sound. So I've learned a lot. And the reason I do a lot of service, so I explained my three niches, but it's basically like service-based businesses. That's how I put it. It's not to say they don't have a product. Like a restaurant has a product, it's their food, but
Right.
they're still providing a service. The reason I've kind of gone down that path of marketing is because it's really fun to get to know the people and build the trust behind it and not just be like, oh, this is a really nice plant. Here's, the
Sure.
5 features of the plant. And then, like I said, when I was in corporate, a few months later, it's like, okay, I've talked about all these features. What do I talk about now? But with service,
Look at the plant in front of the window.
yeah, or like look at the plant outside or whatever. With services, it's always kind of changing and the people are always changing and the guests are always changing. So it's just so much fun to like dive into that world and like get to showcase people's experiences. And I'm someone who loves life experiences. Like I talked about, I love travel. Like I love doing these things. And it's the stuff that gets us like away from the scroll, like away from our
Right.
phone, the things that like bring us back to earth and with the people around us.
I love
Yeah.
that. And I know for a lot of people who are hearing that, I think as you're saying that part of the business aligns with, I think very much what I was talking earlier about the trend in the industry of
Yeah.
marketing in general is going back to the authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those businesses, you get to share a lot of those stories
Yeah.
and really
Yeah.
bring people inside of like the actual experience, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And what would,
So
so
much
for
fun.
someone who's thinking about that and like, well,
Mhm.
how do I do that? Like, what are some tips you
Yeah.
have for people who want to show up more on social media right now?
Don't overthink it. Like that is the best advice I can give. Like the videos, like you said, I put the least effort into the videos that I'm walking on the street in Worcester. I'm like, hey guys, when in Worcester, here's what I'm doing today. It feels so cheesy to do, but when you do it, they like people start remembering it. Like
Right.
I have a friend who also does mortgages and her thing is are you that mom? It's like hashtag are you that mom? So she'll make videos about, just things she experiences in her parenthood. And a lot of people started relating to that. And she came to my workshop last week. So I was kind of I was using her as an example for everyone that was there. I'm
Yeah.
like, I really love what you're doing because when I see you on Facebook, I know what the content's going to be about. So you can also pick like a couple, like, what are your content pillars? What are the things that make you you? What are your unique selling propositions? Like, why should I work with you? Like, when I worked with you, something that really stood out is I saw you at all these business networking meetings, and I was having a really hard time finding someone that would take me seriously as someone who just started a business and is like, I want to buy an expensive house.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I was like, hey, Ryan,
Yeah.
what can you do? Like, how can we make this work? So I think the authenticity piece and like, honestly, like we said, if there's a typo, if it's not totally polished, like, yes, when you work with my company, this stuff will be pretty polished because like
Sure.
that's our job. But if I'm advising you to just like, have a personal brand on LinkedIn, I'm going to say like, it's okay if it's messy. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
There's a line. There's a line of like, don't
Yes.
overshare because if you,
TMI.
yeah, it's TMI. It's when people get into politics, like, it's okay for some people depending on their industry, but like in my industry, I'm working with all types of different people. I'm not trying to piss anyone off.
Sure.
And like, I don't really have strong views one way or another. I'm like, whatever is best for humankind, like
Sure.
humanity. Just a small fun thing. Like my grandpa's actually turned 99 tomorrow.
Wow,
And I just
that's
came
awesome.
from breakfast with him and I said, Grandpa, what is the best piece of advice you could give to anyone in general? And he just said, be kind. He was like, be a nice person. And honestly, like that resonated with me so much because it's not just like in your day to day, but like if you want to be successful in business, like I feel like so much of my business has come just by being nice to people, like
Yeah.
being a good person and not out of greed, like just like genuinely helping people and wanting the best for people. I have a lot of conversations with people like I know aren't going to be my client, but I still want to help them. I still want to be nice and help guide them in the right direction.
I
Yeah.
love that. When you said that, it brought me back to my grandfather. He passed
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, but
Yeah.
well, a year and a half ago. But yeah, he was 98 and it was kind of the same thing. He
Yeah.
was of an older generation. And what's ironic is like, you would think they would have a different perspective because
Yep.
coming from that generation, I
So
mean, they
different.
could have so many different thoughts and beliefs,
Yeah.
but my grandfather had a similar thought process where he's
Yeah.
like, just, be a good person. And
Yeah.
I think that goes a long way in business where people in the moment, sometimes it's a hard thing to do
Yeah.
because different
good
than,
point.
life circumstances. Like obviously if someone, crashes their car in front of you, like
Mm-hmm.
99% of people would go help. But
Mhm.
if it's different where if someone texts you and they're like, hey, I don't need your product or service,
Mhm.
but can you give me advice? Because
Yeah.
now you're doing something for no monetary value.
Yep.
But in the end, what I've found, and it sounds like you have too,
Mhm.
those interactions, they always come back.
Yeah.
The world always has a way
Mhm.
of kind of returning good deeds full circle.
It does, honestly, because people remember if you're not helpful to them
Yeah.
too. So just because they're not they might not be your client right now, or they might not be your ideal client, but that's not to say they won't ever become that, or that they don't know someone who is right now.
Exactly.
And like your business and my business are both very trust and visibility based. That's what my whole workshop was about, like building trust through your visibility. The more you're showing up, both online and in person, the more people are going to feel comfortable working with you and know that they can trust you, that like what you're saying is legit and you're not just trying to sell them something to make a quick buck, but you're actually going to sell them, value. And I think that's the biggest thing in service-based companies is how can people get value out of working with you? With social media, it's tough because I can't put an ROI to 2 posts a week. Like I
Right.
just can't. It's just not how it works. So it's more about, okay, I'm not going to go to a restaurant if I haven't seen it like have a post on social media in 6 months because I'm going to think that they're shut down. That's
Yeah.
just the way our generation thinks, you know?
Well, it's very true, and it's our generation, but it's really everyone now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were
Yeah.
talking about hiring. I'm looking to hire someone
Yeah.
new for the team, and I was talking about this potential hire, and effectively the conversation was like they're in sales, but they're not on social media,
Okay. Yeah.
and fundamentally, I'm like, well, why?
What? What?
They're like, well, their
Yeah.
generation a little bit different. They're older
Yeah.
than we are.
Okay.
But they're like, well, people don't go on Facebook, and I'm like, my 99-year-old grandfather was on Facebook, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't understand. I go, so okay, so if you want to go, out to eat, where do you go? You
Yeah.
go online. So
Yeah.
where do you think people are going to go for the same service? It's
Hmm.
like the old school mentality that everything's still done by word of mouth
Yeah.
is holds some merit, but it's so much more reinforced by what you see online.
Exactly. Like I was just talking to someone who owns a med spa yesterday, and she was like, "Yeah," because she already had a marketing company. She's like, "Yeah, I'm paying like $1,000 a month, and I don't really know what I'm getting out of it. But when people come in, they say that they saw that we do Botox on my Instagram, and I'm like, that's your value.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly that. Like as someone who." I don't know. I don't believe it till I see it. So even myself, when I'm looking for services like that, I'm looking at their Instagram, I'm looking at the before and afters, like I'm looking at all of the basically proof of concept, like what they've done
Yeah.
before, as well as the reviews. Like if you are a business and you have a business Google profile and you're listening to this, please get some reviews.
Yeah,
If you have 3
absolutely.
reviews, that does not look good on you. Like in my industry, it is hard to get like a surplus. Like you do a deal, right?
Mhm.
And you might work with someone for a long time, but you have a lot of deals coming in and out. With us, like it's, we'll work with people for years and years and years and then like forget to ask them because they've been a client. There's never really like a normal time to ask other than like my one-time project clients, like, oh, your website's done. Please leave a 5-star review. But with the social media ones, it's weird because it's like you're not gonna ask them day one. And then like when you're 3 years in, you're like, well, they're so busy. They don't have time. So that's something even I'm working on as a business owner is like remembering the people that work with you now want to see you succeed. They wouldn't be working with you if they didn't believe in your service or your product.
Or you, yeah.
Yeah, or you as a person. So, this is a reminder. Ask for those reviews or like have an incentive program. Like a lot of people, I was talking to a woodworker yesterday. He only had a couple reviews and I'm like, tell people you just do a raffle drawing every quarter. $50 Amazon gift card. That's all it'll cost you. And I promise you, like you will get ROI on that
You'll get
one.
reviews for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it plays a huge role. I mean, everything that I look for outside
Mhm.
services, like of course I'm going to check the reviews.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I bought a new car recently, and
Yep.
I did something I never would have thought I did. I bought a car from a different state. So I was in
Yeah.
Rhode Island
Yep.
I bought it in Florida.
Okay. Yeah.
But the company I bought it from, I looked at the reviews. They had 800 reviews,
Wow.
all 5 stars.
Yep.
As of course it goes, wasn't my
Yeah.
experience, but
Yeah.
so I have
Yeah.
to post a review. Actually, I'll be the first like
Yep.
1-star review. But
Yeah.
anyway,
That's
but
too
it gave me a
bad.
lot of not I guess the best anecdote to that point.
Yeah.
But because of all those reviews, I had an
Mm.
instant trust. Like the first thing I
Yeah.
got on the phone, like I looked through the reviews, found the
Mhm.
sales guy who was talked about the most, and called him.
Yep.
And it just my guard was down a little bit in that sense
Mhm.
because I already had such a strong trust factor, even though
Yeah.
I've never seen someone in person, never talked to someone at
Yep.
the company.
Yeah.
But the reviews, they go a long way.
Yeah. And I mean, as from the consumer point, like standpoint, it is important to be mindful of the fact that like people are only asking the people they had really great, like, did they reach out to you and say, please leave us a review?
I don't think they did
Then you're probably not their ideal
because they
client to leave
knew,
them a review.
well, they knew my
Yeah,
review wouldn't have been pleasant. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So
But
that's a good point.
yeah, as we get talking on that topic too, I want to circle back a little bit
Mhm.
to kind of some of the growth mindset we were talking
Yeah.
about earlier.
Yep.
Because I think for people, in your position, something I'm going through now, where you have
Hmm.
like a couple employees,
Yep.
I find one of the hardest hires to make is someone that starts to take over authority for yourself.
Yeah.
Like hiring an intern,
Yep.
it's easy in the sense that, like, what's the worst that can happen? And a lot of the tasks typically interns get, they're not going to like fundamentally affect the client relationship,
Yeah. It doesn't
or
make or break the
you're the level of
business.
oversight that stops mistakes from getting
Hmm.
to the client.
Yeah.
But it's the manager level positions that are really
Hmm.
hard to hire for.
Yeah.
So is that something you're thinking about now? And what's like the next thought for you in scaling your business?
Yeah, so I've already kind of started with that in the sense of like both of my employees now have like ownership of the clients that they work with. So like Kevin, works with our smaller local companies because he can, even though he's quite the digital nomad, he's in Patagonia right now. He comes back every couple months. So like when he's back, we're doing our content shoots, any in-person meetings, but he's always like available to meet, on Zoom or whatever. And then Ivy, because she was with me from the beginning, she kind of learns the casino early on. So she does a good portion of their work. And I think the hardest part in all of this is like giving them the ability, and it sounds so silly,
Yeah.
to like speak directly to the client and like to not
Yeah.
have to review what they're saying, but just have the trust. And like, I hired someone who's extremely professional. They communicate great with me. They'll communicate great with my client because a big reason I started my company is because I didn't want to be stuck in the 9 to 5
Right.
grind. And then you're in like the 6 to 6 grind, right?
Or
Where you're
more.
working,
Yeah.
or worse, where you're working 12 hours a day. And I had this kind of revelation, and I was joking earlier because I'm turning 25 and I'm like, yeah, I've had like 3 quarter life crises
Yeah. Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Nothing like earth shattering, but I think a big realization in my business is, why am I doing entrepreneurship if it's going to take over my life instead of support my lifestyle? So, in realizing that, I realize if I want to go on a trip, yes, I'm still working here or there, but I'm not working all day. I'm not available to my clients all day because I put the trust in my employees to handle that.
Right.
And I think that that's the hardest growing pain, is like letting go of the vine and being like, okay, they might not have like articulated this exactly how I would have, but you know what? The client doesn't know or care. Like, exactly. I actually reviewed a caption for a landscaping client, and I changed this season to this spring and summer from what my employee originally wrote. And then when the client reviewed it, he was like, changed to this
Change it
season.
back.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I'm like, oh, maybe I'm overthinking things,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I think that's a big part of it, is just hiring good people, having a good hiring process. Like I said, I've learned you can't just base it off of, I had a great conversation with them once. You got to
Sure.
hire someone who's going to show up and do the job and who actually wants to work. And I think there's a challenge with some people in today's day and age that just don't want to work, and they
No.
just don't have the motivation or drive. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the most successful people have trauma stories, or they have things that they went through that kind of got them to where they are today. And there's some rare people that like had a great upbringing and just had a really good, were just raised great. And I was raised really well, but that's not to say I didn't have challenges. Like, I feared for money in my entire teenagehood, and that's why I babysat and worked, because I was scared like I wouldn't have a place to live. And then what did I do? I worked really hard to be able to buy my first house at 23 years old because of that. So, and I think it's easy for people to look on the outside and just be like, wow, you're so successful. That's so awesome. But they don't know the
How lucky.
layers.
Yeah.
How
Must
lucky
be
are
nice.
you?
Must be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Or I love when my family tells me I'm lucky, and
Yeah.
I'm like, you saw me work for this.
Luck's earned in a lot of
Luck is
cases.
earned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
this quote, I don't know it
Yeah.
exactly, but it's something to that effect, where success is when luck and preparation meet opportunity. So it's
Yes.
like
That's a great quote. Yeah.
you can't be lucky if you don't take risk and
Mhm.
put in the work. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's interesting perspective too, where a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially business owners, and from the outside, they'll hear that all the time, like,
Mhm.
oh, you're lucky, must be nice.
Mhm.
But everyone has the same opportunities. And
Yeah.
the only reason people get more opportunities is because they work harder and
Yeah.
they
They
don't
open the
stop.
doors. Yeah.
So I think that's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's always a funny phrase when someone says must be nice. And I'm like, so I was listening to a podcast with Elon Musk
Mhm.
and the host asked him, like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And he kind of pauses and he's like, I'm not going to try to impersonate the Elon voice because
Yeah.
I can't. But he's like, effectively, he's like, most people wouldn't want to be me. He's like,
Yeah.
they see from the outside, I have
Mhm.
this net worth and all these things that they think would be nice. But
Mhm.
he's like, they don't know the sacrifice that I put in. He's
Yeah.
basically like,
That comes with
there's
that.
so many nights that I sleep alone.
Mhm.
He's like,
Yeah.
my mind is a storm. And,
Yeah.
there are days where I don't sleep. And
Yeah.
so I listened to that quote and it hurt, or that conversation rather, and it resonated with me because it's so true where people
Mhm.
from the outside see all these things that you might be doing online or
Mhm.
your business is starting to become successful and
Yeah.
they start to think, oh, must be nice. But it's funny because the only people who say that are from people who are below you in terms of
Mhm.
your drive, your skill set,
Yeah.
or your success with the business.
Yeah.
It's never meet someone who's doing better than you and they'll never say must be nice. They'll say
Yeah.
they'll understand what you went through.
And they'll also probably just encourage you
Absolutely.
too, like that's why I was just saying in my workshop the other day, like when I bought my house, I always thought I would post about it on LinkedIn as like, yay, look at me. Like I'm,
Yeah.
this is for me, it was a symbol of success. Cause like I said, I had like trauma around that. So then I kind of just realized like, how would my employee feel if they saw this? Or like, how would someone
Mm.
else I work with feel? So like, there's still stuff I like to post on my personal page because it's like, it's part of my life. And
Yeah.
I actually like am my own biggest stalker on my Instagram account. I hate to admit it, but like I love to go back and be like, oh, this is where I was at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because it really is a highlight reel. It truly, truly is. I mean, I've learned also to be humble in the process. Like no matter, and it's funny too, because like the more money you make or get, like the less it matters, if that makes sense. I had a client once that told me like, once you make 300K a year, he was like, you can pretty much buy whatever you want, do whatever you want. And then he's like, it doesn't really matter if you make more or less, but why would you want to scale your company? Why would you want to make more? And for me, I think the answer is to have the biggest impact I can have in my time here, in my time as an entrepreneur, in my time with Making Up Marketing. Like, I would love for my entire career to be Making Up Marketing, and that is
Right.
the goal. The only other thing I see myself doing besides like maybe teaching would be starting another business or
Right.
buying a business. Cause like once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And there's also a big difference between like a small business owner and an entrepreneur. You can be both, but not every small business owner is an entrepreneur.
Usually they're not. Usually
Yeah.
they're their biggest employee.
Yes, exactly.
And inevitably
Yep.
that's how it starts.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a good point because I think we talk about it a lot in real estate investing.
Yeah.
I host some seminars on real estate investing.
Yeah.
And it's very similar. Not all real estate investors are business owners in the sense that they usually have another job. Usually it's like a part-time
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
But we talk about that a lot and it resonates with this where you don't have to know where you're going, what your vision is for 10 years or 20
Mhm.
years. It's a hard thing
Yeah.
to say. But you need to know what you want out of life
Yeah.
in general.
Yep.
Because otherwise, I was talking to Russ earlier, you might wake up in 30 years and be like, well, why did I just do that for 30 years? But you have to kind of
Yep.
know what you want out of, this business or with your, investments. One thing in real estate we talk about is you got to understand like what you're good at. Like,
Yeah.
are you someone who has a lot of time available? Do
Mhm.
you have capital? Maybe you have money. And it's the same thing in business where what are you someone who loves what they do and they like
Mhm.
the work and they just want to keep doing it? Like there are
Yeah.
people like that.
And that's totally valid too.
Like I know
Yeah.
some carpenters who like they just love building stuff. Like,
Yeah.
they don't want to manage people.
Yeah.
They just love the art of like going to the job site and like
Mhm.
starting with blank piece of land. They love building the house.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Some people on the other hand are like, well, I don't like the work. I like
Mhm.
the seeing it come together, but I don't want to be the one to do it. So you kind
Yeah.
of have to know what you like to know where you want to take your business, you know?
Yeah, and I think Like you mentioned earlier, kind of the idea of like being the visionary. And what's interesting about my path so far in owning this company is like year one full time, hit six figures. Great. That's awesome. And that's kind of what gave me the ability to like, okay, I can probably hire someone else at this point. I'm making enough of a salary for myself. Now I can, like, I did not hire full time for the first full year of my business.
It's a hard decision, the first one.
And I wasn't about to like have someone go through that life change if I got a new full-time job. Part-time, totally different. Like
Yeah.
you want to freelance, great. Like, you get the work whenever. But with full-time, like I know this is you're, kind of like helping someone live their life, right? So when I had that confidence, it was like right after getting the casino client, I'm like, okay, I can't handle this fully on my own because they signed a contract for like 100 hours a month. So I'm like, I can't do 100 hours a month and my other clients. So that's when I hired her after like I hit that like financial milestone, hit another financial milestone. And then that's the point where I was like, cool, I'm gonna buy a house now. And then that's kind of like where my goals at this phase of my life stopped. Like I didn't really have more goals beyond that. I had said, 3 years ago, I want to have $1 million agency, but then I like was like, oh, that's actually really hard to
Yeah,
get there.
sure.
That's the goal, right? Like we all want to get there. But then I hit a point of, okay, we had a great first year, we had an even better second year. And then the third year, there was a lot of shifts in the economy and just political changes. And all of a sudden, small businesses can't afford marketing anymore. So I had a good year. I didn't have a great year. I made like maybe 20% less than the prior year. And I realized, like, okay, last year I focused a lot on my personal life. I focused a lot on retaining my clients. And then this year hit, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to do better this year than I did 2 years ago. Like, I want to have a really great year. So all of a sudden, this entrepreneurial spark in me ignites again. And it's like the same spark that it may be a little different, maybe evolved, but like
Mm,
similar to when I had to work really hard to make money. It wasn't just like we already have clients who are paying us. We need to just continue doing the processes that we're already doing.
right.
So I'm going through that growing or growth spurt, I will say, the growth spurt now of, okay, what can I do to make my business better, to make my business more efficient, to offer services that are super relevant to clients like AI? Like we're thinking about doing more AI optimization services or helping people build their custom GPTs. Like those are the things that I was watching a YouTube video that's like, if you get ahead
Mm,
of everything and just be the teacher of what's coming out,
yeah.
you can make your money now and then retire and like not worry about when everyone's job is being taken over,
Right.
hypothetically
No, no,
speaking.
it's very true. It's very
Yeah.
true. One thing you said as you were giving that example
Mhm.
is that really kind of stood out to me because of the topic we're talking about
Mhm.
is you said, if you want to make a $3 million organization, everyone
Yeah.
wants that. I
Yeah.
think, so I've thought about this question a lot
Yeah.
because people look at billionaires and they say, like, I want to do that.
Mhm.
But billionaires are a different breed. And
Yeah.
it's funny where I'm not someone to set ceilings or limits, of course, never.
Yeah.
But I've accepted the fact that I don't think I want to be a billionaire. And the
Yeah.
reason being the amount of effort and energy it takes to create $1 billion enterprise
Mhm.
is so much different. And that's a commitment. Like
Yeah.
if you look at the people who are really, making hundreds of millions of
Mhm.
dollars, their lifestyle and commitment is so different for so long.
Yeah.
And I think I was
Yeah.
listening to Patrick Bet David. He was talking about this, and he's like, "You can do anything you want in the world,
Yeah.
but know what it takes to get it." And that's a different mindset.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I think that changes your trajectory based on like what work you're willing to put in and how much. And of course, you put enough work and effort in, eventually, yeah, you
Mhm.
can get lucky. But I
Yeah.
do think when you
Yeah.
were talking about that too, you mentioned when you get to the point of, okay, what else do I need to do?
Yeah.
Sometimes like the best action is just keep pushing forward. Like
Yeah.
do more of the things that have always worked. Like you don't
Yep.
always have to change your business or change your
Mhm.
approach. That's the good bad part about entrepreneurs is
Mhm.
we're not afraid to
We're
take on
always
new ideas.
thinking. Yeah.
But
Always thinking.
sometimes yeah, that is the best.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And I think there comes a point in life too, and like being in my 20s, it's like, okay, like, you know, I think the reason I become as successful as I am is because I've always had an eye, like I've always been one step ahead of what's next. Like, what do I
Mhm.
have next? And like I said, when I got the house, it's like, okay, this is great. Goal checked off, goal achieved.
Now what?
Now what? Because, like, obviously, there are things in my life I want. Like, eventually, I want my own family and stuff. But
Mm.
once again, entrepreneurship, like, you have to sacrifice a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not at that point right now to dedicate time in that way because I want to get my business so solid that when that time in my life comes, I can be as flexible as I want. Like, can go to a soccer game or drop anything. And I'm getting there. Like I said, like I travel, I can get breakfast with my grandpa on a Thursday and like
Yeah.
I have that flexibility. But like my friend asked me, she's like, can you come take my Spanish program in Spain for 6 weeks? I'm like, absolutely
Absolutely.
not.
Would I like to?
Sounds fun,
Yeah,
but
sounds fun.
sorry, no thank you. Like it's
Yeah.
just you can't be gone, for that long when you run a business. And yes, you can work remotely. Like I said, one of my employees works remotely, but for me, having these roots in Worcester is so important because it's how I show up and it's how people, going back to the idea of trust and visibility, it's how they recognize me,
Mhm.
like, and my clients down in Texas, they see my post and they're like, that's awesome. I've made a post about like falling on the sidewalk and my client was like, are you going to sue them? I'm like, no, because it wasn't their fault. It was mine.
Sure.
Don't run in Ugg boots,
There
but
you go.
lesson learned.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
No, I
So
love that. I
yeah.
love that. Thank you again for coming on today. I had
Yeah.
such a great conversation.
This has been great.
And
Yeah.
I always like to, end the show as we kind of wrap up
Mhm.
here with a question.
Yeah.
And tend to ask a similar question with most
Mhm.
guests, but I know when we talked earlier, it's not one of
Mhm.
your favorite questions. So
Yeah.
I'm going to pivot a little bit.
Okay.
I want to have you think about and answer this for a lot of the guests. What would be your best piece of advice for someone related to marketing who's either started a company or they're
Mhm.
just struggling to see results? What would your single best piece of marketing advice be?
Oh, this is something we didn't touch on. Outsource. I know it's
Mm.
like it's a little leading back to like why work with us, but honestly, I learned this in my entrepreneurship program in school. And I remember my professor saying, like, why would you mow your own lawn if you can pay, your neighbor's
Mhm.
high schooler, 20 bucks an hour to mow your lawn and you can sit in your house and run your company and make $200 an hour. So it's like, why trade time for money? Like if you can outsource, and this isn't for all business owners either. Like there are some people, if you are a solopreneur, like it does make sense for you to build your own personal brand and do
Right.
your own marketing. But if you're really trying to grow and scale your company, don't be afraid to once again let go of the vine, have help, ask for help or at least educate yourself around what's going on today because what marketing might have been last year. I was going to say 5, 10 years ago. What marketing was last year is different than what it is today.
Yeah.
So that's a good lead in to say like one of the ways we give back to the community with Making It Marketing is we have a weekly LinkedIn newsletter. It's called Start Making It. And this newsletter every month, for the most part, we do like social media platform updates. So what do you need to know about the size changes on Instagram? What do you need to know about the algorithm?
Love
So
it.
that's one topic. I'm going through our content pillars. It's a lot of education, but it also just offers different insights from our real life experiences with our various clients in various industries. Another thing that's really important, just for general marketing advice, is you own two things. You own your website and you own your email list. Everything else can disappear in the blink of an eye. We went through this in 2025 when all of a sudden TikTok disappeared and everyone was freaking out, especially people whose entire businesses were based on TikTok Shop. And like
Yeah.
that was their main marketing channel. So really hone in on like having a really strong website, good SEO. GEO is the new term for AI visibility. Invest in those things and your website will work for you when you're sleeping, when you're on vacation. And social media is great. It's for visibility, but don't, rely on only one platform. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, one platform can disappear in the blink of an eye, and it is scary when it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally shut TikTok down for a day and everyone
Yeah.
freaked out.
And now it's completely changed too, because now it's
Right.
American TikTok. So, when that first happened, everyone was like, oh my God, the algorithms are so different. My posts aren't being seen.
Yeah.
So, social media is wonderful for so many ways, but like take it with a grain of salt and remember, like foster that email list. Like those are the people that signed up for a reason. Like maybe they subscribed because you offered a free webinar or you offered, a freebie for them to download and now they're part of that email list. And like I said, we do that a lot for staffing where we do their featured jobs, different events coming up, different articles. But yeah, I mean, email is not dead.
No.
Websites are not dead. You just need to optimize them. Well, optimize the heck out of your website for AI and
Yeah.
you will do great because everyone's searching things on AI instead of Google now. And Google has Google AI overview. So you want it to really be pulling that stuff from your website so you're showing up.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your
Yeah.
insights. And I'm
Absolutely.
excited to see, hopefully we'll have you on again in the future. And
Yeah.
as you continue towards your goals, we can see the progress of
Yeah.
this.
Have me back in 5 years so I can answer the question you didn't get to ask me. What's your 5-year goal?
That's
I'll
right.
say, here's what I've done.
And you can tell me if it was in line with what you were
Yeah,
thinking. And maybe in
exactly.
5 years, if we figure out the
Mhm.
hiring process, we can
Yeah.
be doing this in, who knows,
Yeah.
somewhere warm.
Exactly. All right.
Thanks,
Well,
Sarah.
thank you so much.
Thank you.